Welcome. In this video, we will see how to enable and manage the basics of displacement and microdisplacement. A few simple steps to immediately give real 3D depth to your materials. Now let's start by adding a wall stone material contained in the Extreme PBR library. As you can see, materials normally appear flat on a plane object, as shown in the image. After adding a material that includes a displacement map, the button to enable displacement appeared right next to the material in the list. Pressing the button will immediately activate the displacement. As you can see, the object now has displacement active. By default, if the object has not been processed yet, the microfacets of the mesh will be visible. To soften these edges, simply go to the Smart Shade Smooth panel and enable Shade Smooth. Now that we have activated displacement, we will see the Displacement Popover panel button appear in the Extreme PBR utility box. Through this popover panel, we can adjust the displacement. In this case, we are using the Displacement Modifier mode, which takes advantage of Blender's modifiers. Through the two sliders viewport and render subdivision, we can subdivide the object to get better displacement detail. By default, we can adjust values between 0 and 6. These values can be exceeded by entering the number manually. By pressing the toggle wireframe button, we can see the polygon density in real time. As I mentioned earlier, the value of 6 can be exceeded by entering a higher number by typing it directly on your keyboard. This allows you to get extra detail, but I recommend not overdoing it, as it uses a lot of resources and could freeze Blender's interface for a few seconds. Important note, when you set a specific viewport subdivision value, keep in mind that the final render will always strictly rely on the render subdivision value. With the strength slider, we can adjust the displacement force. Negative values will set the displacement on the opposite side of the mesh. By adjusting midlevel, we can adjust the displacement offset. The smooth factor is used to smooth the displacement in order to have a less angular mesh. The higher the value, the more the mesh will be smoothed. This value works in conjunction with the smooth repeat value. Smooth repeat is used to repeat the smooth in order to have a less angular mesh. The higher the value, the more the mesh will be smoothed in large areas. Now let's move on to brightness and contrast. These two values modify the texture used as displacement. As you can see in the video, modifying the values changes the image, which in turn changes the intensity of the displacement. In displacement, imagine black as the floor. It means the surface does not move and remains flat. The more the color fades toward gray and white, the more the surface rises, creating an increasingly higher relief. By adjusting contrast and brightness, you can control the intensity of the relief. Increasing the contrast will make the transitions between high and low areas sharper and more pronounced, while modifying the brightness will allow you to raise or lower the entire surface. By clicking on the eye icon, you can hide or show the displacement. If left hidden, it will also be hidden in the render. When you are in this displacement modifier mode, it allows you to make the displacement permanent using the Bake Displacement button, removing all modifiers and turning the mesh into actual real geometry, converting the visual effect into true polygons ready to be edited point by point in edit mode. And now let's see how displacement works when set to microdisplacement mode. In this mode, there are some advantages, such as being able to paint with displacement. This displacement mode uses the GPU, works in both EV and cycles, but I strongly recommend using it in cycles because it is more accurate in mesh calculation. To adjust the displacement in this mode, we will use the bump/displace displace sliders in the material editor. Once displacement is activated, these two sliders automatically control the displacement values. To subdivide the mesh as desired and achieve a more detailed result, let's go to the Displacement Popover menu. As a higher subdivision makes the displacement much more detailed. But be careful not to overdo it with overly high subdivisions, as this slows down Blender significantly. By pressing the Texture Manager button next to the bump displacement sliders, we can enter the dedicated panel and edit the black and white range values of the texture that controls the displacement. Thanks for watching this tutorial.